Alarming headlines out of Chicago with 30 people shot, several killed, and the violence on the streets rattling people's perceptions. While you've got the DNC that's going to be hitting the streets this summer, and a whole bunch of other things. What is going on in Chicago? Well, I'm all the way down in central Illinois, so to get the latest on the street, I connect with Chicago reporter William Kelly here with Bishop on Air. Like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. But he gave us a rundown earlier this morning when I chatted with him about the headlines that there were over this past weekend.
Well, I mean, third straight weekend of 30-plus shot, 7 killed, including, children, obviously. But we also have children committing crime. One case in particular, a teen mob, right, escalated in Streeterville, resulting in beatings of people walking down the street, including a couple that lost their baby as a result. The woman was pregnant, and she had a miscarriage, and the teens were charged with misdemeanors. Clearly this was a hate crime. It was felony. It should be a felony, bare minimum. But Mayor Johnson hasn't even commented on it. The last time whenever he talks about these teen takeovers, violent teen takeovers, he simply refers to them as silly kids. Well, silly kids beat a couple and stomped their baby right out of her womb. Greg?
So clearly there's, a lot of concern from people hearing these types of stories. Where's this happening? Is it just in, for instance, some of the more crime-heavy areas, or is it impacting, say, some of the more tourist areas where there's a lot of foot traffic?
Well, I grew up on the South Side. This is the kind of violence that was typically associated with the South Side. It's all over Chicago now. Streeterville is the postcard of Chicago. I always try to explain it to people that way. When you think of a postcard of Chicago, you're picturing Streeterville. Okay, this beating is right where the DNC is going to be, or at least supposedly. I don't know. I mean, have they canceled it yet? They've already canceled the 4th of July fireworks, Greg, if you can imagine this. So, right there, if you, could you have ever imagined a city hosting a presidential convention canceling the 4th of July? There seems to be something amiss here, Greg. I'm sorry. I speaking as a Chicagoan, as somebody who loves Chicago with all my heart, what really breaks my heart about this particular case of this couple being stomped on and their baby killed is I've been warning the mayor about this for what seems like years, but certainly months. I released a video that now has 2.2 million views on it, a viral video of these violent teenagers in the tens of hundreds running the streets of Streeterville. Had he heeded my warning, and I'm sure he saw it, like I said, it has 2.2 million views on it. This is also why I'm upset, I guess, and I confess I am, that I still don't have my media credential that Lightfoot revoked from me in the previous administration. Had I been at the city hall press conferences, I could have made sure that the mayor of the city of Chicago knew that this was taking place in Streeterville and possibly saved this couple from not only being beaten but having their fetus stomped out of the mother's womb. Greg,
it's tragic to hear that type of headline. In the conversation I had with William Kelly this morning, we also talked about perceptions. And when you see video like he shared of what looks like a pretty, attractive place to go to see a movie and do some shopping. There's heavy police presence, a lot of people on the streets, but then there's some kind of fracas of sorts and kids running right here in what you would assume would be a bustling, commerce area. And as William Kelly reports, the perceptions and trying to manage those perceptions, some taking a different approach rather than being open and honest with their constituents.
Well, Chicago alder person, Greg, get it right. Hoppenworth says that she will stop sharing crime alerts with her constituents because she's afraid that it will create a bad perception of apparently black criminals. But understand this, Greg, if the criminals were white, she would be screaming bloody murder. How do I know this? Because I grew up in Chicago, and I know that, Jesse Jackson, Reverend Jesse Jackson, is a perfect example of this. The only time you would ever see him out protesting anything would be if it was a white police officer and a black victim. We haven't seen anything along those lines for quite some time because, from what I'm hearing from my police sources, there's really not a huge appetite to try and arrest any of these violent criminals because the last dozen or so police officers who tried faced disciplinary action, Greg.
What does this all mean for the summertime, especially heading into the Democratic National Convention? Something else that Chicago reporter William Kelly provides a bit more context on.
Well, what's being predicted from Police Superintendent Schnelling is everything's under control. We don't see, but once again, if everything was under control, then the Streeterville couple would still be preparing for the birth of their baby, right? Clearly, everything is not under control. If Mayor Johnson's politically appointed police superintendent Schnelling can't handle these, silly kids stomping on Streeterville residents, how is he going to protect Governor Pritzker's DNC party guests? That's the obvious question, unless maybe his only focus is DNC party guests and to the exclusion of Chicago residents, Greg.
And finally, one of the headlines getting a lot of attention out of Chicago is the cost that's being reported for Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson in hair and makeup. And William Kelly has to react to that as well.
Craig, you can't make this stuff up. It gets crazy. It gets more and more absurd every day. Apparently, Mayor Johnson, and maybe this explains why he isn't paying any attention to Chicago crime and violence. Apparently, he spends all of his time and money on hair and makeup. I remember when Mayor Lightfoot, I got in trouble for pointing out that she was getting her hair done during the lockdowns when people like you and me faced some kind of penalties for getting a haircut or going outside, and she was getting her hair done, if you remember that famous photo. But now here we have Mayor Johnson spending over $30,000 on hair and makeup. Who does that? It doesn't even. I'm having a hard time understanding what is the real issue here. Is there some kind of hair and makeup kickback scheme going on? I don't know. Allegedly, I'm trying to figure it out. It doesn't seem to. I can't quite make sense of this. But $30,000, Greg, and this is a man who can't pay his water bill.
Appreciate William Kelly, again, providing some of the headlines and his thoughts on what's happening in Chicago. And if you need to find him, it's real easy. Just search Chicago reporter William Kelly, and it'll pop right up. He's also a regular guest on Fox News as well, but you can see his exclusive reports on his X page and elsewhere. So appreciate him taking the time with us here with Bishop on Air. All right, like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and we're live and right here with you each and every weekday morning, so make it happen.